How exactly did toxic weed get into baby spinach? Last year, I reported on an unusual food recall prompted by toxic weeds in baby spinach that caused about 200 Australian consumers to experience hallucinations and delirium. I was confused by why farm workers and consumers didn't notice the foreign leaves before harvesting, packing, and eating them. Happy to say, I found out at last week's Australian Institute of Food Science and Technology conference. Here's what I learned. Attractive symptoms. One man purchased 300 bags of contaminated product after hearing it caused hallucinations. I'm about to quote from a medical director. The patients that have been quite unwell have been to the point of marked hallucinations where they're seeing things that aren't there. They can't give a good recount of what happened, said the medical director of the New South Wales Poisons Information Centre in the Sydney Morning Herald. The symptoms proved to be so appealing to some people that the Guardian newspaper published a story saying that was urging people not to seek out the contaminated spinach for a recreational high, saying they risked experiencing really horrible health issues. That advice was ignored by a West Australian man. After hearing about the recall, he crowdsourced some petrol money to drive across Australia, a return trip of 8,000 kilometres or 5,000 miles and 84 hours of driving time to source packages of the spinach before the recall had been completed. He managed to procure 300 bags of contaminated spinach and reportedly consumed several of them on the drive home, but his haul was discovered during a biosecurity check at the West Australian border. Strange taste and odour. The contaminant that was sickening consumers was identified as leaves of Datura stramonium, known in Australia as thornapple and elsewhere as Jimson weed. I found it strange that consumers, packing house workers and harvest workers did not notice the thornapple leaves because they usually have an angular shape that is quite different to baby spinach leaves and an unpleasant odour when crushed. The toxic elements of Datura stramonium leaves are tropane alkaloids, with atropine, hyoscyamine, and scopolamine being the main alkaloids present in Datura species. Tropane alkaloids are relatively heat stable and can withstand harvesting, processing, and food preparation processes. Investigation results. The contaminated spinach was used in retail packs, pre-prepared salad packs and salad kits, meals sold by a meals to water supplier and by a national pizza chain. All affected packs were traced to a single field of a single farm in the southeast of Australia. Within that field, the Datura weed was found around one drain or irrigation channel. Dr. S.P. Singh, who heads the Safe Leafy Veg program at the New South Wales Department of Primary Industries, shared investigation results with the AIFST convention goers last week. It's believed that seeds of the weed were introduced to the baby spinach field by either runoff from recent floods or by intense dust storms of previous dry years. Germination of the seeds may have been facilitated by deep tillage of the field, which brings old seeds to the top of the soil where they can germinate. Low-density planting where crop plants are widely spaced can also provide better conditions for weeds to germinate and grow. Because baby spinach is a fast-growing, short-duration crop, and it's about 30 to 50 days, herbicides with a long withholding period, and that is the time between the application of the herbicide and harvest, cannot be used. And there are limited herbicides that can effectively control all types of weeds in baby spinach. This means that the only effective weed control is physically removing weeds from the fields. Another factor may have been labour shortages, which affect farmers' ability to undertake manual weeding and also impact the experience levels of harvesting crews. Dr. Singh mentioned that experienced harvest operators can detect Datura weed by its strong smell. When the weeds are first emerging, they look similar to new baby spinach plants. Both of the images below show Datura stramonium foliage, with the plant on the left appearing more similar to baby spinach leaves than the plant on the right. Obviously, the pictures are in the email and the post. Prevention and controls. Because there are limited herbicide options for baby spinach crops, the most important control method for preventing toxic weeds in table spinach and salads is a thorough visual inspection of the field prior to harvest. The farm at the centre of the recall was accused of poor farming and agricultural practices in a 2018 legal case, in which a party to the case claimed that the farm's carrot and cornfields contained unacceptable levels of weeds and other invasive plants. Manual weeding can be used to remove weeds, including datura, from fields prior to harvest. However, it is labour intensive. Dr. Singh shared video showing a modern weeding technology that uses targeted lasers to zap weeds from young crops. And there's a link to a similar video in the email and post. The laser method is not widely used due to the high cost of the equipment. Visual inspection during harvest is another control, with workers watching the conveyor belts carrying harvested leaves into the hopper, looking for signs of contamination. A further control for datura contamination in spinach fields is the training of workers. The weed has a strong smell when disturbed, and experienced workers can detect the weed from its odour. In short, Datura stramonium, the toxic weed that caused illnesses in consumers of baby spinach, was growing in one part of one field. Juvenile weeds look similar to young baby spinach. Floods and/or dust storms may have introduced the weed's seeds to the fields, either recently, in floods, or in previous dry times. That would be dust storms. Deep soil tillage farming techniques and/or low-density planting can allow weed seeds to germinate. Labour supply challenges reduce weed control options, and inexperienced workers are less likely to identify contamination with weeds during harvest. The main sources for the things that I've just said were from the convention presentation delivered by Dr. S.P. Singh, called Were Toxic Weed Thornapple Leaves on the Horizon Scan for Emerging Food Safety Hazards in Leafy Salads, and the Department of Primary Industries Fact Sheet 2023 called Managing Food Safety Risks Associated with Toxic Weeds in Leafy Vegetables. That's online, and I've got a link to that in the newsletter and the post. And if you did enjoy this, or you know someone who would benefit, please go ahead and share it with them.